What's up? This is your Beef Burger Baconator Slayer, Mr. Bacon Von Baconstein. And what we're going to do here today is we're going to start getting this knife completed. We recently heat treated this, we hardened it, quenched it, and tempered it. And now the first thing we're going to do is just do a light sanding around the outside edge. And then after that, the next thing we're going to do is clean up the side and then the actual bevel itself. So here we go. That's it for that. This oscillating spindle sander works really good on doing all these inside curves areas that my straight 4x36 sander doesn't. Welcome back. So I've got everything all set up now. What we've done already is we have lightly sanded away and smoothed out the outer edge of this knife. Doing it on that spindle sander, especially on this inside curve right here, is far easier to shape and sand than on this flat 4x36 belt sander. What we're going to end up doing is we're going to try to use that belt sander to clean up the outside edge of this. I'm going to be doing something today I've never done before and trying to use a magnet to hold this up against this belt. So what I have on here right now is a 60 grit belt, and recently I have acquired through Amazon. Amazon's awesome for buying stuff. I've picked up, what is it? This is 320, 400, 220, 600, 800, and 1000 grit belts. And what I would like to do is go up through the different grits. Probably not all of them. I'd probably go up to 600 and assess. Probably start at 320, work my way from 320 to 400 to 600 and stop, and just kind of see where I'm at and how this polishes at 400. And then after that, move on to the next part, which is doing the bevel. The bevel this small, I'll probably wind up doing by hand, which is really no biggie. Anybody who's curious about looking at what's in the background over here on this side, this is actually another project I have going on. I found, well, I didn't find, I have some cut pine in the back, and there was a couple pieces that looked like they were pretty dense with sap. And what ends up happening when you have a piece of pine that's very dense with sap, it's what we call fat wood. This is very flammable, and what you can actually do, and I'll show you real quick, this doesn't even have an edge on it yet, but you can scrape it, and those scrapings are super flammable. You could strike a ferro rod against it and start a fire that way. I mean, this stuff is so dense it's almost translucent or transparent. Can't really see anything. I'm not doing anything there. That was worthless. Anywho, and also off to the side I have my beverage of the day, which is green tea with chunks of ginger in it and some essential oils and organic honey. Can't drink every day, especially alone. You drink alone, you're an alcoholic. At least that's what they tell me. Anywho, so first things first, I'm going to take this belt off. I'm going to change it out for a 320 grit. Now, the things I'll be needing today is a screwdriver to change the belt, obviously the knife, different belts, a water bucket for dunking. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this tape later. I have a somewhat powerful magnet with a handle, a piece of cloth, some El Cheapos safety glasses, and a respirator that I bought at Lowe's. This is a medium because all Lowe's has is mediums. But I have a beard, so it's fitting tighter against my face isn't really that bad of a thing. So, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to back this up a little bit. Adjust this. Can you even see what I'm adjusting? No? So I'm spinning this and adjusting. I want the sandpaper to be somewhat in the middle of this top roller. Alright, next thing I'm going to do to protect my knife, I normally like to put a few pieces of sandpaper, or not sandpaper, tape down. This way here, your knife isn't scraping against the aluminum, messing up your finish that you're trying to do. It's one thing when you have a block of metal like this and you're going at it, you're scraping up the different sides. But it's a total different story when you're trying to do it and finish it up. So, we got that out of the way. Bring this back. And what I'm going to be doing is cleaning this up and then eventually dunking it. I don't want to ruin the temper by heating it up too much. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot of talking and explaining what's going on because I'm going to be wearing my respirator. So, just bear with me. I might scream some expletives, start swearing. If it sounds like French, it's bad. Not that I speak French. Holy sheep shit. Look at that. 320 grit finish. That is fucking phenomenal. That would have taken me normally 3 hours of hand sanding. I can't be happier. That just saved me so much time in making knives, you don't even know. Now, we have also put tape on this side. Just like to protect this, the knife from this, I want to protect the knife from the magnet. So, here we go.
Oh, amazing. I love it. So this magnet is pretty strong. I don't know if you could see last time, but to get the knife off, I just jammed it in. Whew, that's a little warm. Pulled it off. What I'm going to do now is dunker. Cool it off for a second. I'm going to be able to pump out knives so much faster now. Each knife that I do, I've been doing 10 hours, 12 hours of hand sanding. That's amazing. I spent $100, maybe $120 on all these belts. That is so much faster. I can't even believe it. Alright. Well, that's sitting in some cold water.
I'll take this off here for a second. While that's sitting in cold water, I'm going to remove this belt and switch it out for a 400.
We'll put my respirator back on and get back to it.
So, one thing I'm going to do real quick before I turn off the camera, I'm going to hit up the outer edge with 400 grit. I'm sure that you guys kind of get the gist of me doing this. Alrighty, I'm going to hit that up on the 600 grit and let you know how it turns out. And I'll show you me doing the bevel by hand. Bacon back, and we have the knife for the most part all cleaned up on the belt sander. I might want to just quickly go over this with 600 grit again, but my main focus now is going to be the bevel. And to do this, the different tools that I have are the knife, obviously. I have a block of poplar. I have gloves. I have mineral oil. I have a little jig that I made. I have 3 clamps, and obviously different grits of sandpaper. Now, I used to do the entire knife like this. Used to take a lot longer. And what I have here is 2 bolts that I put in my table that I set up for this buffer. And when I bring the buffer over, I just run the bolts through the bottom of the buffer. They don't have to be tight. I just have to keep the buffer from vibrating away or moving when I push on it. So these bolts are always here. Normally they're the other direction when I use the buffer. So what I did was I made this jig to be able to bolt up using the same bolts that I have. And all I have to do is go underneath, puff it out, throw it in the jig. I have a little washer down there at the bottom. right? Pop it back through. I am going to tighten it hand tight. But primarily, I'm going to be keeping it in the same spot using clamps. So. All right, this pressure that the direction of force is going to be back and forth like this, so I don't have to worry so much about the up and down. Next, I have a screw style clamp. I use a screw style because they put more force than a hand squeezing style. So you put this down. Now, again, I used to do this to the entire blade to clean it up. I didn't use the belt grinder at all back in the day. But I know you're thinking that's not that big of a deal for such a small knife, which it isn't. You get a knife that's about that size, and then it's a different story. It's a lot more work. We're talking hours and hours and hours of work. So, one thing you're going to want to do when you're using this is give it a little bit of thread before you clamp it, because if you start out with it bottomed out, it's going to be more of a bitch to get off. Get this on good and tight. Alright, now what I'm going to do, oh, by the way, one of the most important tools you could have is a little fan. You start putting out physical exertion, or you're in a room, gets a little stuffy, having a fan could be the difference between a decent time and a shady time. I enjoy doing this. I don't do this so much for the money. I like selling stuff and enriching other people's lives, but I really just enjoy working with my hands. And the job that I have, I don't really get to do that too much anymore. I like being creative. I was a welder for 5 years in the Navy, and then I went to non-destructive inspection for the last 3 years I was in. So I wrap the sandpaper around the piece of poplar, throw a little bit of mineral oil on it. I use mineral oil for a few different reasons. One, I was using WD-40. WD-40, the problem with that is it eats away your gloves, but also if you absorb it, it will give you a headache if you work with it for too long. Mineral oil, you can drink the shit. It'll give you diarrhea, but it's not going to hurt you in that same way. It's not going to dissolve these gloves in the same way. I just think it's overall a better way of doing it. So here I'm starting off with 180 grit for the bevel. Now obviously, down the road you're going to need to be more and more careful because this edge is going to get sharp. I don't like to do my final sharpen on the belt. When I heat treat this, I keep about 10 or 20 thousandths worth of material at the edge, and I don't like taking that off with the belt. I'd rather take it off by hand. I just feel like heating up the edge, even though it's a very small amount, could just make it more brittle, and that's not why I heat treated it to begin with. So like up here is already starting to sharpen. Back here's still a little bit of dull. Alright. Now I'm going to switch sides. Let's see if I can zoom in on this little hair. There we go. Now, what I'm going to end up doing is going up through the grits. 180, 320, 400, 600. Right, and then with the 600 I'm going to clean up this top area up here and be ready to clean up these grooves that I cut with the Dremel. I normally don't do this grooving until the end, until after everything's all done being heat treated and cleaned up and all that. But I wanted to show my wife what her knife was going to look like all prettied up. She wanted to actually see it. So now I have more work. I'm going to have to go back and clean these up, which is no big deal. It should take, you know, a few minutes, but I'll show you that later on. Until then, bake it out. Alright, I'm back. Almost done here today. So what we have is the knife now has been ground to a 600 grit finish. It is currently sharp. Obviously not a final sharpen, but it is sharp enough to hurt you. What I'm going to be doing is touching up these decorative grooves that I put in. Normally I wait till the end to even do these, but like I said before, the wife wanted to see what this looked like, and all the grinding and sanding and getting everything ready, they just need to be touched up. So what I have today, or what I need for this, obviously the knife, a Dremel with a drum sander, obviously new drums, a couple pieces of poplar, and safety squints. I'm going to be using my vise to clamp up the knife. And so you can't have too many vices, too many clamps. I actually counted, and between my 3 vices and all my clamps, I have 42, which is obscene, but they break, they get old, shit happens. All I know is with all that clamping force, the stuff that I need to stay put stays put. Alright, so I normally measure this out. I measure these out and hit them up, and these I do just by the width, and I do this by eye. There's not really any template I can follow, so I'm just gonna get at it. So this is going to be a little bit of a challenge, because I have to clamp this in such a way that the camera will be able to see what I'm doing. So this is going to end up putting this in a position that I've never actually used a Dremel on it before. So basically what that means is, bacon, don't fuck it up. Don't worry, I'll give you a close-up. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change out the Dremel for a smaller one. I'll put on the 1/4 inch one. There we go. That actually widened out the other ones. Not that it looks bad, but I just don't want them that wide. And I'm going to change this from a 80 grit, or a 60 grit, sorry, to a 120 grit. Whip that off. 1/4 inch 60 grit. 120 grit. Got it right there with the Dremel. It just doesn't fucking end. I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. I got the knife sanding jig set up. Bolt, 2 clamps, clamp for the knife. Nice and tight. And this only took me a few minutes to set up. But I chose to keep that mess up in and show you how I'm going to go about taking care of it. So, as you can see, what we were using at the time was a 120 grit Dremel. So I'm pretty much feeling that 320 grit sandpaper with some mineral oil should work pretty good at getting that out. I have to be careful because this knife has already been sharpened. It is sharp. And just work it getting that out. Now I'm not just sanding that one spot, I'm sanding the whole knife. I don't want a divot. I'm focusing most of my pressure here, but I'm sanding this whole area. Just go back and forth, back and forth. Then after this I'll pop on a 600 grit piece and bring the finish back up to what we can put on the buffer. Sanded to 320 grit. Now I'm going to rewrap this piece of poplar with 600 grit clean off some of that mineral oil that had that grittier sandpaper residue on it, and go to town. Everybody makes mistakes. That's why pencils have erasers. I wish I was a fucking pen. Anywho, throw some WD-40 up on there. Sweet elixir of the mechanical life. Look at that. Beautiful. And it's only going to get better. So. I'm going to disassemble this, set up the buffing wheel in its place, and throw a quick shine on this because then I got to go in. The whiff's gonna kill me if I'm out here too long. And I'm working on her knife. But anywho, this is how this ended up turning out. This right here, I'm going to do another video in the future on how to make this. This is super easy. This is made out of a 2x4. But I'm going to do a video nonetheless, because I want to. Well, maybe somebody out there doesn't know how to make it. But yeah, big fan of clamps. All kinds of clamps. Vices, squeeze clamps, screw clamps, hand tightening clamps, spring-loaded clamps, nipple clamps, butt clamps, whatever kind of clamps. Keep your stuff where you want it. Alright, back. And what we got here is a knife. The stuff that you're going to need is safety squints. You might want to put on a respirator or a N95 particulate mask. I have green buffing compound, which is this. I have blue buffing compound, which I'm going to finish with. I have a bucket of water for when it gets too hot, because as we all know, friction causes heat. I have my buffer, and as you can see, those two bolts, as I spoke about earlier, are flipped upside down, and they're not even tight. It's just enough to keep this from moving, vibrating away. And I have my fan on. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to put my safety glasses on. I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to hit this side with the green and then start buffing this. Buffing, buffing, buffing. Hit it with the blue, buff it, buff it, buff it. Then this side, I've never used with any buffing compound. I always kept it clean, and all I do with that is just wipe off the excess buffing compound, because sometimes it'll get sticky and you won't really be able to get it off. So, let's see if we can fuck something up, huh? Alrighty. And as always, doing this is more of a pain in the ass with the camera. Takes longer, it's more of a bitch. I got the tripod right here in my way, but luckily this is a small knife, so this should make it easier. And here we go. I don't know if this is the right way or the wrong way, but this is the way I do it. As you can see, I used a piece of sheet metal and bent it in half, and it goes underneath where I bolt it, and that catches a lot of the shit that comes off. Help keep the shop clean, keep my my brain at peace. So here we go. You want to hold this so that way, you want to hold the knife in such a way that it's not gonna grab it. So if you're doing the edge and you go up the middle, it'll grab onto this and bring the knife forward. So what you want to do is go up the edge about halfway, flip it around, go up this side about halfway, flip it around and do the tip. Just the tip. Come on. Just the tip. Anyhow. As you notice, the wheel turned black. What that is actually bits of metal that deposited on that wheel. I don't know if you can tell. She getting shiny yet? I know she's getting warm. Now I'm going to take off some of this buffing compound. Clean it up a little bit. Hit it up with the blue. Some people call it Smurf poo. Anywho, here we go. Here you have it. The other side and the polished side. That's the other side. That's the polished side. Look at that beard. Oh yeah. Sexy. Say hi to yourself. That's it. I'll be doing the other side, polishing the other side, and probably hitting this side up just a hair more because I'm OCD about my knives. Anywho, got more to do. But by the time this thing's all said and done, you'll be able to perform surgery with it, and it'll look beautiful as fuck. But that's it for a day. This is Bacon out.